East Point City Council and Planning Commission joint meeting. Today is Tuesday, February the 8th, 2022. Happy New Year for those that I haven't seen this year. Or didn't want to start too far back until we waited for you. Thank you, ma'am. We're going to start with our roll call with the City Council, followed by the roll call for our Planning Commission. You may begin, please.
Councilmember Baker.
Here.
Councilmember Curley.
Here.
Councilmember DeMonico.
Here.
Councilmember Lucido.
Here.
Mayor Owens.
Here. Thank you. Roll call for our Planning Commission, please.
Mr. Broll?
Present.
Mr. Lalonde?
Present.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Ms. Naylor? Ms. Ford? Chairman Palazzolo?
Here.
Thank you. The approval of the agenda for City Council, please.
Madam Mayor, I would move that the agenda was approved by the City Council.
Support.
Motion and support, please call the roll.
Councilmember Curley.
Yes.
Councilmember Baker.
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico.
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido.
Yes.
Mayor Owens.
Yes, thank you. The approval of the agenda for our Planning Commission, please.
Someone prepared to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Second.
Motion and support. Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Lalonde?
Yes.
Mr. Broll?
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Chairman Palazzolo?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. At this time is the hearing of the public. You get 3 minutes for the hearing of the public, and it's now open to any guests, visitors, or residents at this time. Okay, seeing none, the hearing of the public is now closed. Going straight to the discussion, starting with item A, the Capital Improvement Plan, CIP. Council? Yeah. Oh, we have our AEW here. How are you tonight?
Good, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. No, in the packet in front of you tonight is the current.
Excuse me, everybody. Could the sound system from the podium sucks? Can you kind of reach down as far as you can and speak right into the microphone? They don't have the parts yet. They're still on a ship. So we're going to get it, but they're trying their best to get it fixed. But in the meantime, if you could really lean right into it, like I'm doing right now.
Is that better for you?
Oh, it's wonderful.
Wonderful. All right. All right. In the packet here tonight was the current capital or draft capital improvement plan that we put together. This is something that we put together on a yearly basis at this time when we're preparing for the budget. We put together a 6-year capital improvement program. So this program is starting with the 22-23 fiscal year, going through the 2027-28 fiscal year, and it's been separated per the fund for the different infrastructure funds that we have. The first fund is the Major Street Fund, and we've broken that down into different projects over the next 6 years. Currently, for this upcoming year, we've got the reconstruction of 9 Mile from the west city limits over to Gratiot. And then we have future years going further east on 9 Mile. So in 2023, we'll be reconstructing from Gratiot to Tuscany, and then in 2024, from Tuscany to Kelly. At the time that this draft was put together, we did not have federal aid funding secured for the 2024 project. For the current year's project and next year's project, we are getting 81.85% of the construction cost funded through the federal aid program. We recently met, the Macomb County Federal Aid Committee recently met to talk about projects to put on the Transportation Improvement Plan for years 2024 through 2026. And we submitted the projects that we have listed here, the 9 Mile project from Tuscany to East City Limits for 2024. That was put onto their priority list for recommendation to be funded through federal aid. That's now with SEMCOG now for final approval. So it looks very favorable that we will get federal aid assistance for the 2024 project. We also submitted for 2025 the reconstruction of Topher from Kelly to Beaconsfield, and in 2026 concrete sectioning of Hayes from Stevens to 10 Mile. Those were currently put on a contingency list that they put together. There were 48 projects throughout the county that were submitted to be included for federal aid assistance. Those two projects for 25 and 26 were put on what they're considering a contingency list. As additional funding may become available, those projects may become fundable in the future, but we'll leave those on the list for now. We also submitted for 2026 the reconstruction of 9 Mile from Kelly to I-94. That project was not considered by the Federal Aid Committee at this time. They only looked at up to 3 projects per community for 2024 through 26. So that may be a project that we would have to look at for the 2027 fiscal year when that time comes about. In addition to those projects for major roads, the city has been successful in getting grant money through safety grants to do traffic signal upgrades. We just started doing traffic signal upgrades on 9 and 10 mile roads, and the city also got grant money to do Kelly Road at Topher, 9 Mile, and Stevens. And I know I was in front of the council here recently to get the design approved for that. That's 100% covered through the safety grant, with the exception of the 9 Mile intersection where the city is elected to put decorative mast arms up. And that additional cost for those decorative mast arms would be funded through the Act 51, the city road funding. In addition, we've also put some money in for joint sealing and pavement marking programs for the future. It's been a few years since we've done a pavement marking program in the major streets. That's something that may need to be looked at. Typically, we would look at doing the pavement markings every 2 years. And then we just started last year with doing joint sealing of streets again. We'll be looking to do that on an annual basis, both with major and local streets. Go to the local street capital improvement plan. There's not a whole lot of money in the local street fund for Act 51. Unfortunately, the funding system that the funds for that the funds come from the state government through gas taxes, registration fees. That system hasn't changed for many years. It needs to be revamped as far as how cities get the funding for roads. So that includes payroll costs, maintenance, street sweeping, plowing. By the time you get through all that, there's not a lot left for capital improvements. The city has been fortunate enough to do a local street pavement patching program the last few years, and will continue to do so on an annual basis. We've budgeted $1.1 million per year for that project. We started a few years ago in the southwest corner of the city and have been zigzagging through the city. And we divided the city into 13 maintenance districts. We've completed 5 of those districts to date. We'll continue into District 6 and potentially 7 this year. In 2020, we did do some asphalt resurfacing of streets. We did bring that back to the city in 2021. The previous DPW director did bring that back to do additional streets in 2021. But we did not move forward with that. So at this time, we don't have any asphalt resurfacing or street reconstruction projects slated for the near future because there's just not enough money in that fund. We have been successful in doing a couple small reconstruction projects with the assistance of community development block grant funds last year and this year. This year, we're going to be doing the reconstruction of Almond Avenue from Semrau to Stevens. But there's just not enough money to provide a match for future projects in that at this time. And then again, we do have joint sealing on an annual basis. The water and sewer fund for future projects. With the 9 Mile reconstruction projects, we will also be replacing the water mains prior to those projects being completed. So we will be replacing the water main this year, again, from the west city limits to Gratiot, and then next year continue from Gratiot to Tuscany, and then the third year from Tuscany to David. Also, we're looking at lead water service replacements on an annual basis too. Within the capital improvement program, we've shown $1 million per year to replace lead water services. The city's records show that we had just over 1,300 lead water services in the system that needed to be replaced, and per recent mandates by Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, or EGLE, those lead water services have to be replaced by 2041. So it's recommended that 5%, at least 5% of the lead water services are replaced on an annual basis. The city has been pretty proactive on that. We have replaced over 200 services to date with the water main projects we've done the past 2 years, and with the project coming up this next year, we'll be looking at almost another 200 being replaced. But we do want to start, we've kind of focused on those streets where there were several lead water services. We could knock out, a fair amount at one time. Now with the general lead water service replacement program, we'd be kind of scattered around the city and knocking out those scattered locations throughout the city. And with that program and with the mandates with Eagle, the lead water surfaces have to be replaced from the water main to at least 18 inches inside the home. Previously, before that mandate came out in 2018, typically we would, with a water main replacement project, only replace the lead water service from the water main, from the new water main to the curb stop box of the right-of-way line. And then it would be the homeowner's responsibility, but with the new mandates, it's now required that the city replace the lead service in its entirety.
What do you think the average, so, well, of course, we did it when we were doing the replacements for like a whole street. What do you think the average would be for like when they're all over the city, like per house, something like that? I'm just wondering how far $1 million.
It would be pretty similar. We've looked at that. The average cost is about $5,000 per location.
Okay.
Yep, and that includes restoration, sidewalk restoration, everything that would be involved to do that work.
Okay. So you can get quite a few done for $1 million.
Right. And based upon the plan, after the 5th year, we would expect to be complete with that project, so we'd be ahead of the game.
Okay.
And then we've also applied for, in the process of getting a drinking water revolving fund loan to do water main replacements over a 4 to 5 year period too. We're looking at a $20 million loan on that project. So we're in the process of getting that, trying to secure that loan. We'll be starting that project this fall after, we're looking at August of 2022 to secure that loan and then start doing those projects. Those projects would replace water mains, basically the oldest water mains in the system that were installed in the late 20s. Those, again, with a lot of lead water services and those that are prone to frequent water main breaks. On the sanitary sewer side, we're currently in the process of cleaning and televising all the sanitary sewers within the city. We're about 25 to 30% through the city currently. The results of that cleaning, the first district that we completed, which is basically everything west of Gratiot, north of Topher, we've analyzed that video and we've put together sewer rehabilitation programs. We're going to be doing an open cut repair program and a sewer lining program. We expect that to actually be, the contract award to be in front of council at the next council meeting. We'll be continuing to add to that as we continue through the city doing cleaning and televising, but we've put some costs in here for sewer rehab and open cut repairs throughout the city as we continue along. We've also put costs in here for future sewer cleaning and televising. It's recommended that a city cleans and televises their sewers every 5 years, so we'd be looking to repeat that program at the 5th year. And then we've also put in here some costs for storm sewer repairs. Last year and the year before, we did about $700,000 of storm sewer repairs based upon sewer cleaning and televising that was done in the storm sewer system a few years back with the SAW grant. This has basically just been a placeholder every year to do about roughly $250,000 of storm sewer repairs as needed throughout the, on an annual basis. That's basically what I have here for the draft capital improvement plan. Again, it's not set in stone. This can be adjusted at any time, depending upon funding, new projects that might come up, grants. So, yeah, I mean, this is kind of a working document, you know.
Thank you for that presentation. I had a question, and then I'll open it up to council, and they might have questions as well. I wanted to know, with the lead pipes, and I think I asked Mr. Marucci this, he never got back with me. With the lead pipes in the construction, can you get CDBG funds to fix the lead pipes to help us with those costs? Especially in underserved areas that they select. I mean, instead of, I know we love our parks, but we love to drink water most. So, right? So, have you ever searched out and seen?
I'm not aware of CDBG funding being used for lead water services, but we could check into that to see if that's a possibility. I've not heard of any communities getting money through that program to do lead water services at this time, but we'll check into that and see if that's a possibility.
We can be the first, that's fine. Yeah. So, so can you get back with all of us on that, our city manager, and see, are you gonna check tomorrow?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions?
Sure. I had a couple more. Sure. What did you say? I think you said about the 2024 9-mile reconstruction. That was Tuscany to east city limits. You said that was or that was up in the air for when,
It appears that we will get federal aid funding for that. That was
We will.
recommended by the Macomb County Federal Aid Committee to move forward with that project,
Okay.
along with other projects throughout the county, and that's been forwarded to SEMCOG for final approval.
okay, I think I just didn't hear part of it. Thank you. And then I was wondering, I know we can, bring a certain amount back and forth between major and local roads. And I don't know, I guess I don't know what the scenario was, right now, but I was looking at, let's see. It'd be the major street fund, like page 2, about, Hayes from Stevens to 10. And we've got that out, 4 or 5 years. Hayes has gotten pretty bad in the last, probably just last year or two even. Is there a possibility we can use some of at least the pavement patching? Can we kind of swap that out and maybe do that a little sooner than 2025 for Hayes, at least for a couple parts of it? There's weird parts now where just a flag of concrete's 2 inches higher than the rest of it and stuff like that.
Sure, that's a possibility, and we can have that discussion with finance and the DPW director to see
Okay.
if that's a possibility.
Seem-
I have a question actually about what you just mentioned. Like next year's CBDG funds, I know you've used those for road projects before. Maybe that would be an idea when we get those funding too, to help offset some of the costs. I know it wouldn't come even close to covering the cost, but
Yeah,
because I agree with you, Hayes is terrible.
yeah.
Anyone else, council? Then we're gonna leave it to our planning commission, open it up to you all at this time. No questions for
I have a question.
okay.
Just, and I understand that this is a budget, right? And these are estimates and whether they're, were provided by a vendor or estimated in-house, but, there's 18.15% paid by the city. And I'm just wondering how it works if, with inflation at 7% right now, and we're looking out 2 years on these, potentially a project that you have in 2 years is gonna be 15% higher. And there could be overruns. So I'm just curious how is it a set amount that we're paying 18.15%, or how does that work?
There is a set amount based upon what we've provided the Federal Aid Committee as to what that project will cost. We did include inflation into that. Usually 3% inflation is what we typically put into that, and that's what's recommended.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Council or planning commission, I want to leave it open if I can. Does any of the staff, directors have anything to say? Any questions or anything at this time? Because I know you all work hand in hand together. Okay, well, thank you
No problem.
for your presentation. Moving right along to the 9-mile strategic corridor plan presentation. And who is doing this presentation for us? What's your name, ma'am?
Laura Ha.
Hi, I don't think I've probably seen you one time, if I've seen it. It's been a long time.
It's been a while, correct? Yes.
I think since I was a councilwoman. That's almost 4 years. That's a long time. Good to see you. God bless you. So did you want to sit there, or did you want to come up to the podium? Because it sounds like we can hear you really clear right there. So,
Yeah, but it's fine if I stay here then.
yeah, just bring it a little bit closer.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. You have the floor this time
Thank
for your
you.
presentation.
Good evening, everyone, and I do appreciate this time to present the draft 9-mile strategic corridor plan. Most of you have the draft plan in front of you, and I'd like to go through chapter by chapter. There's 6 chapters, and just touch on some of the most important points. Feel free to interrupt me at any time if you have questions or would like to discuss further. So the first chapter is the vision, and this really just lays the background on the need to do this design project, and provides an introduction, details the study area. I think it's important to note that surrounding the corridor within in a walkable distance of a quarter mile are over 4,000 households. So changes to this corridor do impact many residents of East Point. On On page 7 are the goals and objectives. And these were created based on the extensive and public engagement that the city did. And also from the city's adopted 2040 master plan. So there's 5 main goals. That would be equitable mobility and accessibility, sustainable green spaces and places, attainable housing, resilient economies, and healthy communities. And these 5 goals reappear throughout the plan and are tied to the action plan in Chapter 6. The next chapter details the corridor today. So on page 13, I think there's a good visual for a sense of the land uses that currently exist along the corridor. So the size of the color and category represent the frequency of those parcels along the corridor. So there's a good deal of general commercial and neighborhood commercial, but there's also, you can see the gray represents vacant buildings, vacant land, or parking lots. So there is already a lot of room and space for redevelopment. Then on page 15, gets into the specifics of where those existing land uses are located within the corridor, mapped, and descriptions. And then on page 17, I think this is important to note that on the corridor, the uses really range from parcel to parcel and block to block, but it's a horizontal mix of uses as opposed to a vertical mix of uses. So you can see in the image provided on page 17, that's an example of a vertical mix of uses where you might have commercial or office on the ground floor, followed by residential on the second or third. And that's one of the designs that we're encouraging in this plan. The third chapter details the public engagement process. And as part of that endeavor, one-on-one stakeholder interviews were conducted virtually with 11 different organizations and agencies. There was a community-wide survey that received over 600 responses, and 18 businesses that are located on the corridor also participated in a specific business survey. And those results are detailed within this chapter. And we've also included quotes. There were hundreds of comments that were received as part of those surveys. So throughout the plan, there are quotes from those respondents kind of sprinkled through. And that's a nice way of hearing the actual voice of the community. Chapter 4, which starts on page 34, details the streetscape characteristics itself. And it first starts with a bit of background on complete streets, what those components are, and why it's important to think of streets in a holistic manner. One of the action items of the city's master plan as well is to create and adopt a complete streets resolution and policy. And this was listed as well in the 2020 work goals for the city. The following sections then detail the public realm, talk about some of the existing assets of the community, such as the grid network of the streets, right-sized blocks, the fact that there are alleyways. It also goes into access management and some of the current obstacles facing the corridor and how those could be retrofitted with new redevelopment. The pedestrian network is also discussed, so sidewalks, bicycle facilities are talked about, street furniture and parking. Public transit is also described, and recommendations for stops moving forward. And then the landscaping along the corridor, that's on page 47. And I think the graphics that are on page 46 really highlight the lack of landscaping within the corridor. So we analyzed if there was a tree lawn, which is the area between the sidewalk and the curb of the roadway, if there was that lawn area present on a parcel, if there was private landscaping within the parcel itself, and then if there were any street trees within that tree lawn. So only 9% of all parcels on the corridor had street trees within the tree lawn. 23% of all parcels had private landscaping, and 36% of all parcels had a tree lawn. So by making improvements to the natural environment along 9 Mile, it's going to be a drastic change in a positive way. Chapter 5 is the zoning plan, and this and the next chapter are really the most important sections of the plan. So this chapter calls for a modernization of the current zoning ordinance as it relates to 9 Mile. On page 50 and 51, there's a map of the current zoning of the parcels, and there's really a heavy concentration of the B3 general business district, which includes uses that don't align with the vision that was articulated by the community. So for instance, some of those uses would be adult entertainment establishments, car washes, auto repair, gas stations, self-storage facilities. Starting on page 52 are specific recommendations for the Planning Commission and the City Council to consider moving forward for 9 Mile. These recommended zoning standards, if adopted, would apply to all new construction and potentially existing uses could come into gradual compliance with these standards with small additions or change of uses perhaps. So first, we recommend defining a new mixed-use district, and on page 53 are a host of uses that we recommend would be permitted by right and then by special land use. And those special land uses are the uses that would require public hearing, planning commission review, and city council review. In addition to the use recommendations, we also offer design-based zoning standards. And we recommend these because by having these in your zoning ordinance, you're creating a established guidebook that's very straightforward for developers and property owners to follow. So it's clear what the requirements are and how they can meet those. So some of those recommendations include building configuration and facade standards. So that would deal with building height, the orientation of the front door to the street, establishing a minimum build-to line facing the street, and recommendations to improve facades so that they are more transparent and welcoming. We also provide some recommendations for dimensional standards on page 55. 56 gets into public realm recommendations. So this would be minimum standards for landscaping, the encouragement of new public spaces. So this could be that, let's say there's a new residential development, you establish a threshold of 20 units, and anything over 20 units has to provide some additional public amenities or public green space. Environmentally sensitive designs are also recommended, and those are shown on page 57. And then 59 deals with transportation-specific recommendations. So this would be to modernize and right-size parking standards, to incorporate parking lot screening requirements and bicycle parking, and perhaps most importantly, to address access management standards. Chapter 6 is the action plan. And so starting on page 62, I think this section right here is extremely important about how 9 Mile will change moving forward in the years to come. So one of the largest opportunities for change is the reconstruction of 9 Mile. That will drastically change the public realm for the better. It will improve safety, access, and mobility. But we also recognize that changes to the 9 Mile roadway have some engineering limitations. So a lot of the strategies that we've offered in the last chapter regarding zoning, if implemented, offer self-enforcing strategies that will naturally calm traffic and develop a greater sense of place along the corridor. So in addition to the reconstruction of 9 Mile, which the city is already moving forward with, other changes to the corridor will happen incrementally over time. So this would be a gradual compliance with some of the standards in the last chapter. So this could include if there's a small building addition, or perhaps landscaping added to a site. And then lastly, significant redevelopment on the corridor has an opportunity to make a very large impact as well. So this would be a new infill development, or it could be demolition of an existing structure and new construction from the ground up. And that development potential is illustrated on page 63. So we looked at a block on the south side of 9 Mile. This is a typical size block, and it's currently underutilized. You can see the current conditions in the top aerial image. There is an existing building. It is its primarily use is for auto. And then adjacent to that is vacant paved space. There's 3 curb cuts on the parcel, and it doesn't have a unified street frontage. The render in the bottom right corner shows the development potential. So even if we just look at the western portion of the parcel and a reuse of that existing building, it could be improved with an outdoor seating area that could be screened with a short knee wall and landscaping so that there's a sense of enclosure and comfort for anyone using that space from 9 Mile. You can see the curb extension on the west there, and by doing so, the area between that block and the next is shortened so that it's safer for pedestrians, and it also is a visual cue to drivers to slow down. It also allows for on-street parking. So even with that redevelopment of the existing building, there could be a major change to this block. If we look at the entire block with a new development, that would be Area 2, there's the potential for a 3-story building with just under 3,000 new square feet of retail. And then the second and the third floors would be residential units. We were proposing 6 2-bedroom units with covered parking that would be tucked under the building and behind. And then the internal parking lot there that you see, that would be shared parking for the residents and the businesses. It has a one-way traffic flow, so there's only one curb cut onto 9 Mile. So we've consolidated those curbs. This is just one example of the potential for many blocks along the corridor to see redevelopment moving forward. Then on page 65, discusses the action plan itself. So how do we implement the vision of this plan and what the public has articulated? And the action plan itself is on page 66. And it details a number of projects, policies, and initiatives over the next 10 years for the city to take on. And we've provided 3 different phases to accomplish those projects in, but it's meant to be flexible so that the city can respond to redevelopment opportunities and private investment and other funding as they come. The table also lists the primary party that's responsible for seeing that action come to fruition. And potential partners are then listed in the adjacent column. So those entities that will support the realization of the action. And then those 5 goals that we talked about earlier in chapter 1, those are also identified in the last column of the table. And so they signify, its presence of that color signifies that that goal would be furthered by accomplishing that action item. And then starting on page 67, there's a detail of the projects by phase. And so you'll notice that on 67, the first project, which is a high priority in order to implement this plan, would be to make those zoning ordinance amendments and modernize the code. So that would be to develop and adopt a mixed-use zoning district for the corridor. And then 68 details projects for phase 2. So that could be a vacant building reduction initiative, facade improvement program, street furniture. And then on page 70 are projects for phase 3, and these are really more long-term projects that would take significant effort to do. And then lastly, on page 71, we recommend that as the city goes about implementing these projects, that performance metrics are put in place so that the city can evaluate its progress. This will allow it to really celebrate the accomplishments and milestones with the community, and to also pivot and make adjustments to the action plan as needed, and reevaluate strategies. So table 5 lists a number of potential performance metrics under each of those 5 goals again that were in chapter 1. And that concludes the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to see that in this strategic corridor plan, some of the things that you talked about is in motion. So that means that we're a proactive city. Thanks to our economic developer and our city manager and council and so many people that have been a part of this, we're actually ahead of schedule. So that's good. Council?
I think that was very thorough and very good.
Okay, sorry.
I think I really want to push you on the planning commission to comment on this. I'd like to see what you guys think, if I could put you on the spot. I know this was a lot, but I think page 66, I guess, is helpful to me, at least to put an order to things. I don't know, what do you want to see on a planning commission agenda soon, or what do you want to, there's a couple items on there where you're the lead party.
Yeah, I was gonna do
Things
that
like that.
after council spoke, then I open it up to them. So I want to make sure we do things in order. So did you have anything else to say, Mr. DeMonico? Then I'll open it up to them like you recommended.
Yeah, not at this point.
Okay, thank you. Planning Commission, you have the floor.
Yeah, as chair, I'll gladly take the lead here and ask Mr. Brawl what his thoughts are.
Tim, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I wanted to get to you first. I want to let you know that. Yeah.
I appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
We might run out of time, so. Well, first, I have a question before this even starts, right? This is a really nice presentation. For me personally, it gives me a lot to think about, and it gives me a framework to operate. One of the things I've struggled with personally is we've talked about this 9 Mile Road, and I don't really understand our limitations, or sometimes I don't know what planning commission can do. So for example, in July of 2021, we received a 9 Mile Road traffic study. And so the traffic study talks about a 5-lane versus 3-lane. And I think there's a really big difference between a 5-lane and a 3-lane and how we approach it. So I guess my first question, the whole framework starts with that. Like, what leeway do we have? Who's the decision maker? You know, that to me, that's like the first building block that I want to start with. And maybe that's already decided. I just don't know. Can anybody have a comment on how we proceed with that, or if it is decided? Because I know that the funds are driven by an outside source, and they look at 9 Mile Road as a thoroughfare into Macomb County, into the other cities. So I'm not sure they want to go to a 3-lane. I'm not sure it's appropriate, but where do we start?
Like Councilman DeMonico want to answer that, so.
Well, and actually, I was gonna ask maybe if
Okay.
Ms. Hawk could even she'd probably give a better answer as to one versus the other at least. And,
Okay.
you know, we did have a meeting where we did discuss it for the first third of the project, but yeah, if you could touch on it, that'd be good.
Certainly. So just in general, the Planning Commission is an appointed body. So the commission is always making a recommendation to City Council for action. And you know, as planners, one of our roles is to advocate for best practices. So certainly the lane reduction, the road diet that was discussed on 9 Mile would be a best practice for in many different respects. Perhaps moving traffic through, or for other safety concerns that were raised at that time, you know, it is not a viable option. But that is one area that the Planning Commission will be making a recommendation and advocating for that in order to implement this vision. The zoning code amendments, that's really an area that the Planning Commission drives, because you on a monthly basis are working with implementing this code and applying it and seeing the true impacts of those regulations. So that is something where the Planning Commission, yes, should be very dialed into, but it's still a recommendation to council.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, in regards to that lane diet, that meeting was before I was back on council, but I do know just by the wording of the motion, that the motion stated that there would be no reduction of lanes on 9 Mile. It didn't say specifically west of Gratiot. It just said 9 Mile. So that was the vote from council last year. So that's kind of something that was already decided, but you know, that just is what it is.
Okay, thank you.
I know Mayor Pro Tem supported that lane reduction. I don't know if you want to say anything at this time, why that you thought it was a good idea or not.
Well, I mean, we voted for, I don't remember exactly what was on the agenda that night. I thought it was just for west of 9 Mile, west of Gratiot, but either way, if it wasn't, we'll be voting on it again. But I just wanted to make one comment. Yes, I do really think that some of our zoning code amendments definitely do need to be upgraded. I mean, that's something I really hope and encourage that the Planning Commission would. I'd love to hear your guys' recommendations on that, because I know some of them are pretty old and outdated, and we kind of need to bring them up to the times.
Well, if my understanding is correct, the voting body on the prevailing side, they would have to bring that forward if it was already motioned or voted against. And if it passed by a majority to say that, hey, we won't do it. I mean, Rich, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they voted not to do the lane diet. Then somebody on that prevailing side would have to bring that forward. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I can comment on this. Well, so I think, I guess basically how I was thinking about this, I guess regardless if the motion did mean for the whole project or just for the third, which to me, we were voting on the construction plans that were in front of us. We still have to vote on the plans for the other two sections, a 9 Mile once they come to us. I was hoping at least we'd just continue discussing, you know, what's in front of us for Ms. Haw here and for Mr. Kern, and at least talk about it, since the other 2/3 of 9 Mile is not set in stone. I mean, I do realize, you know, yeah, we had a 3-2 vote. You know, Ms. Lucido and I lost that vote for the first part, but also the part you're talking about, Councilman Baker, for the prevailing side and things like that, there's a 6-month limit in the council bylaws about that too. So if it was for the whole of 9 Mile, 6 months will pass before we're gonna be voting on the next section of 9 Mile. So I think at least my plan, and I think hopefully this touches on Mr. Broll's question, was at least to discuss 5 lanes, first 3 lanes, you know, for the whole project, really. I mean, and all of these other items. There's all kinds of items, and maybe, you know, I mean, it's very complicated, obviously, right? There's this, you know, 70-page document we just went through, and it, you know, a lot of it is gonna be even still high level at that point, and a lot of this stuff in the, you know, on page, you know, 66 is gonna take a lot of planning commission meetings or city administration time. So it's probably clear as mud still, to the answer to your question, but at least that's how I've been thinking about it, and I just wanted to express my opinion.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking down. Yes, sir. Councilman Curley, I know, I'm sorry.
Well, I wasn't going to bring up the, about not ripping up 9 Mile Road into 2 lanes, but I guess I'm obligated to talk about it briefly since I'm the one that brought the motion up. And I'd have to check with our city attorney to find out for sure if a motion, how long does a motion stay in effect? If it's 6 months or a year, I don't know when that would be, but excuse me. You know, if it's only 6 months, then obviously we have to bring it up again. And but I can tell you now that my thoughts are not going to change. And if it needs be to, after the 6 month is over, then I would have to make another motion and see if it gets 2 other council members to agree not to rip up 9 Mile. But the original motion was for the entire 9 Mile Road from Beechwood to the expressway. But so we'll talk about it when the time comes up, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So off of 9 Mile for a minute, because there's a lot of stuff in here. One thing maybe like for city administration, because I would like to see some more like green spaces along 9 Mile. So if they could watch for like vacant lots, things like that to come up that might be coming available along 9 Mile, because some of it isn't developed yet. So if that came, that might give us an opportunity to help start creating some of those more green spaces, especially if we do continue with the 5 lanes. That would provide more green space along the corridor besides, because some buildings don't even really have an easement right now to plant trees or do anything like that. So that's something that I would definitely be interested in, like having even like administration kind of watch out for.
Yes, ma'am. Please, Planning Commission, please jump in when you feel like it. I want you all to know going back and forth dialogue is fine. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have with the 9 Mile, I agree with Mr. Broll. We have to decide if it's 3 lanes or 5 lanes in order to figure out the configuration of everything else. But my big concern, and I thought we touched on it, and I don't remember, was the safety issue for the police and fire.
I think you did at another planning meeting.
I don't remember what their recommendation was. I think that would be a huge part to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Just one other thought. I don't want to leave this agenda item of 9 Mile Road discussion on a negative thing. If people thought I was negative about not wanting to rip up 9 Mile Road, I think the plan is beautiful. I think the plan is for East Point. This plan is not for Ferndale. It's for East Point. And I don't want to compare ourselves to what Ferndale looks like. I don't want to make ourselves compare to what any other city looks like. This plan is gorgeous, it's beautiful, and it's going to get done. So let's think about it's East Point and not Ferndale.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir.
Well, and I think in regards to what the police and fire, their viewpoint was not to reduce it for safety reasons. And I think that should carry a lot of weight. You know, who better to tell us from their perspective than the guys who have to protect and serve all of us. So to me, their recommendation carries a lot of weight, very significant. As a guy who lives off of 9 Mile, I understand what that traffic flow is currently. I've lived off of 9 Mile for almost 20 years. I've been driving that road and many others. So I understand the concerns that they have. And to me, if I'm in trouble and I need police and fire, I don't want them to have to come from across the city to get to me. To me, it just makes sense to give them as much space to do their jobs the way they see fit. And again, I'm like Councilman Curley, it's not a negative thing for me, but safety is huge. Because if I'm in a situation where I need help, I want them to get to me as fast as they can. I don't want to have to wait for them to come from 8 Mile and Kelly or wherever else to try to get to me. So, but just to answer your question, that was their concern, is that, or their viewpoint is to not go down to 3 lanes, but to leave it at 5.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
So yeah, I'm gonna comment also on what Councilman Curley and Councilman Baker said. Yeah, our two of our public safety officers did say the opinion of what they're saying, and it was their opinion. I asked them what data they had to back up their opinion, and they just admitted there was none. I mean, I think our director said he looks out the window 10 hours a day, and he'd know that 3 lanes would it'd be unsafer than having 5 lanes. But I brought some data to that meeting. The U.S. Department of Transportation's done studies. Reducing the lanes is not going to reduce the public safety response. We're still going to have good response times, and it's going to be much safer for pedestrians on 3 lanes than 5. I mean, that's obvious in so many different ways, and if we do so many different things in this book, it'll be safer for people, not just having fast cars. You know, I don't know how, I mean, looking at all the different, there's been a ton of studies, and nothing is going to show that a 5-lane road is going to be safer overall for pedestrians and for response times and I mean, we're talking fire response, right? Because the MedStar ambulances are all over the place throughout the city. They're not leaving from the fire department or off of 9 Mile necessarily, and police are patrolling everywhere. So that's also, the response time's not going to be dependent on a 3 or 5 lane 9 Mile.
Well, knowing that the Director of Public Safety has, I believe it's over 30 years or somewhere close to 30 years, his opinion does carry a lot of weight with me. And like I said, I've been sitting there driving 9 Mile for almost 20 years. I've driven from 9 Mile down in the Ferndale area for probably almost as many years. I know what that flow of traffic is like. I've driven it. I don't like it, just to be, honest about it. And if the Director of Public Safety, who's been doing this for, we'll just say in the ballpark of 30 years, says that that's a concern of his, that does carry weight with me. I know what that traffic flow is like just on a normal day. So for me, I guess we don't have to keep belaboring the point, but it does carry weight. 30 years is a lot of time to gain a good viewpoint and an accurate viewpoint on what the hazards of your job is. That's more than enough time to be proficient at it, more than enough time to be thoroughly informed of what you need and what works best for you. So that's pretty much all I need to say on it. I don't want to go back and forth.
I think it's from that Tim Hortons coffee you have tonight. That's what I'm feeling. And you didn't bring nobody else none.
I did offer to share, but nobody
I never
wanted
heard
it.
you talk this much ever,
No,
right?
You know, it's something that weighs heavy to me, though. The caffeine doesn't do anything to me. I just drink it for the taste. But no, it does weigh heavy to me as a guy that lives over that way. It does mean something to me. And we can try to say, I mean, I don't think any of us are public safety up here. So
I used to be. Hello.
yeah, I mean, well, I'll just say currently.
Yeah.
No, not taking away from what you did, but I mean, I'm not trained as a police officer. I'm not trained as a fireman. But if the people that are trained to do these things and trained to respond and trained to look at things a certain way, and especially for as many years as they've been doing it, that carries weight to me. I've been at my job for 21 years. There's things that you just can't tell me about my job. I know I'm proficient at what I do. So it carries weight to me, and that's more than enough time to really understand what it takes to do your job. And so, yeah, that will carry weight with me.
Thank you. Planning Commission, Mr.
Yeah, so,
Palazzolo.
Madam Mayor, if I could, I'd like to give Commissioner Lalonde an opportunity to express some opinions about the plan. But before I turn it over to him, I want to ask some follow-up questions of the council, if I might, and let
Yes,
you
sir.
think about it while we listen to Commissioner Lalonde. Councilmember Lucido, you had talked about making some changes to the zoning ordinance that you thought were necessary. If you wouldn't mind being a little more specific about some of the changes that you think we need to consider at the Planning Commission so we can be a little more efficient. Secondly, Councilmember Curley, you made a comment that the plan is for East Point and not Ferndale. And I just wanted to give you an opportunity to define a little more explicitly what you mean by that, so that when we're talking about the standards that are set forth in the new zoning ordinance, we can keep that in mind so that we're not giving you a product that you wouldn't appreciate. So if you wouldn't mind thinking about those two things, and then I'll turn it over to Commissioner Lalonde. I'll let him talk about his initial thoughts on the plan.
I think it was one of the better presentations I've ever seen. I think the graphics and everything, my feelings are, we got to get this done. You know, we got to do it, and I think we're going in the right direction. It's a good start, but we just got to keep at it. And I think it's an excellent plan. That's all I have to say, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Lucido?
Oh, thank you. So a couple of things that I was thinking about is, and I know some of these things you guys have already discussed a little bit, like shared parking lots between businesses, like offering for that. If maybe we could, Ms. Haw mentioned about having like less like entrances into different businesses, so like for new development, to help try to restrict some of that. So we have, it's a safer roadway with less people like pulling out all the time onto the roadways. Just like even like the offset of parking. I know there's some buildings along 9 Mile right now that like if they can park right along this like the sidewalk, and a lot of times it blocks the view of people trying to pull off of the side streets, things like that, just to make it like safer and more pedestrian friendly, to me is what is important, because I feel like in the time that we're at now, people are walking a lot more and they're utilizing those things where, you know, maybe 30 years ago, everyone just drove everywhere, but now I think just making sure that it stays more pedestrian friendly is what's really important to me. And the only other thing is too, is maybe making it a little bit easier. I mean, I'm all about like the trees and the planting, but I don't know if there's something just to give like more options of varieties to help some of the business owners that don't maybe have the space. I know we have like the retaining walls in the back. I don't know if there's a way to incorporate greenery into the retaining walls to kind of help with, you know, adding some more in our alleys to make them look nicer too, instead of just having a bunch of cement brick walls. So, or like giving them an option to doing of like a public art on their building or something like that, instead of planting trees if they don't have like the parking lot, you know, if they don't have like the space to like plant the trees that we require, things like this. Those are just some ideas that I have. Obviously, I'm looking for you guys, your guys' recommendations.
Thank you for that, though. Yes?
Councilman Lucido, so you spoke and touched on the safety. I know there's one old business for sure that parks on the sidewalk on 9 Mile, and I don't know how we can take that away.
Well, I don't know if you can take it away with the existing business, but if there's a change in, the idea is like when there's changes in ownership, you know what I'm saying, that's when we would have to be able to upgrade it. So we update the zoning now, when a new business comes in, they would affect them. Any existing businesses right now, of course, would, be permitted to allow that.
And touching again on safety that you mentioned, honestly, between the expressway and Gratiot, which is where I drive on 9 Mile a lot, is just a hazard in itself. I don't care how many lanes are on it until public safety can get that under control, because it's 35. I don't even know, besides myself, who drives 35 down that portion of 9 Mile. And the people that just don't even pay attention to pedestrians. And granted, pedestrians a lot of the times on 9 Mile do not even cross where they're supposed to be, also makes it a hazard. I'm not sure if there's a way we could work with Director Ruib on trying to figure out a plan to get that under control, because honestly, if that's not reined in, that's still a huge problem. And the people turning left where they're not supposed to during certain hours, I see it all the time at Beaconsfield and 9 Mile. And I don't think anyone cares, and I don't know how we make them care or make them change their habits. But I think if we're gonna do this to 9 Mile, safety is huge if we wanna make that walkable. That was just my input, thank you.
Councilmember Curley, do you want to elaborate on your comment from before?
No, I don't want to elaborate, but I would just say that over the past year, in different areas and different situations, I've heard people say that we want to kind of be like Ferndale for what they've did. And all I was saying, Commissioner Palazzolo, was the fact that I think we need to concentrate on what we can do with what we got, and what our dream is, and what our compassion is to make East Point no better place to live. And so that's what I meant by that, Commissioner, that let's concentrate on saying let's make East Point better than what it is. Thank you.
And Councilman Curley, I do agree with you. We want to be our own entity, but I do know that we also look at other communities that we want to emulate and take from them what works, like them reducing Woodward. Whoever thought that would have happened? See how it works. If it works for them, it's something maybe we can implement into our city. They've done all the work, and now we're just going to bring it here and still make it East Point.
Madam Mayor, we didn't give you an opportunity.
I was waiting for you to give me a chance to speak.
Please.
On that side, you the mayor, on this side, I'm the mayor. So look, I'm waiting for you to let the mayor speak. So thank you, Mr. Palazzolo. I get to finally meet you. I think I met you one time before. It's been a long time. I say all of you all, so that's a good one. I know it's a lot of things going back and forth with the parking, and I think a lot of people got a lot of ideas and want to see East Point move forward. And we still can do that. We have to just be innovative and creative in doing that. So we can't do what other cities do, but we got to find our own way in how to do that. So I think our city manager and our economic developer was talking about buying land and creating, and maybe condemning that land and making parking spaces in certain areas. I know we have a parking space over there by Olive Garden that we don't use at all. If we're not, and those are underutilized spaces that we can sell and probably create another space somewhere that can be utilized in a DDA area or something like that. So if we're not going to close lanes, which I think is, shouldn't be, we shouldn't close lanes, and we can't find additional parking, let's create parking in a safe way. How do we do that? And so, it's a lot of buildings on 9 Mile that is not being used. And so why don't we buy them, you know, in a strategic way? So, I think that we can be a better, more efficient city like all of us want, but in different ways, and as you all do too. But how do we utilize what's not being used and reuse it for the betterment of this community? I think that's what we need to do. And I think we saw a lot of this in this presentation tonight. And I think a lot of this stuff that we already are doing, I think the Planning Commission helped us, which was a big thing where you all allowed businesses to share spaces. That was huge, you know, and so a lot of businesses, thank you for that, that idea, because a lot of businesses was not coming and investing in East Point because they had no parking. So you opened that up and brought more businesses to the city. So thanks to your recommendations and our staff, economic development, AEW, and Laura Hall, and council, of course, and our residents, we were able to, you know, do those things for new businesses to come to the city. Now we just got to find some more parking for them because it's not enough. And so I think those are ideas that we need to go forward on. Now your turn. Commissioner Palazzolo.
Yeah.
Because we haven't really heard anything from you.
Yeah, no, and I think the devil is in the details in everything that we do. I think that, obviously, a large part of our challenge going forward is to revise the zoning ordinance to make sure that we provide a platform by which future development can be made more accessible to all people, regardless of their mobility status, and that anyone who is in a wheelchair or requires special assistance or has sensory challenges can feel like they're walking in a safe environment is huge for me. So, you know, I think that the zoning ordinance change is certainly a priority, and I think we can't speak too definitively about how it'll all play out until we really do get into the details and talk about specific regulations. You know, I'm glad that the plan talks a lot about access management because that is a huge concern, and I think it does speak to the safety issues that Commissioner Commissioner Shelia has mentioned. And it's something that we as a city, I think if we actually sit down and look at the professional standards and the guidance that is provided by even our state Department of Transportation, the way that 9 Mile is developed is in blatant violation of every recommended standard of the MDOT access management manual. We're not even close to the standards that the State Transportation Agency has set out for access management. So we really need to talk about those specifics and rein them in, because without a sound access management plan, you can't create a safe environment for people of all mobility status. And that's really one of the things I want to focus on when we get into those discussions internally. So, but, you know, I know, like I said, it's a team effort. You know, obviously everybody's got to participate. I've been doing this a long time too, professionally, so I know how it works. You know, we'll never get it quite right the first time, so we just got to chip away at it.
Now that plan, thank you for that information, which I don't know how many people didn't know that. That plan that you just talked about, can we get a copy of that plan when you said that we are not, what?
In access management guidance?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
I got it right here. I can email it to you.
Yes, please, thank you.
I keep a copy of it on my computer.
Wow, that must be
case.
so much fun.
Yeah, no, let me tell you something. And if you're looking for a good night's sleep, I got some other readings for you.
Thank you so much, so I can get it. Now, I might not all the way understand it, so if you get a call from the mayor, you know why, right?
Absolutely. I'm here for you, unless, you know, I'm reading this, in which case I'll be asleep, so. Right.
I don't know if you all want to move forward to the 2022 goals. That kind of rolls right into it.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if I could ask if we could talk for a few more minutes
Fine, yeah.
about the corridor plan. I'm
Absolutely.
just wondering, for the rest of well, for anybody, what, if I could just back up a little bit, what do you want to see changed on 9 Mile? I know we've dug into a lot of details, but I guess like I'm especially wondering we've talked about the lane differences and stuff, and I guess I've just been trying to think about how do we meet some of these challenges, Councilman Curley, like, what do you want to see improved on 9 Mile, or Mr. Baker, Ms. Lucido, Ms. Owens, maybe starting there right now, at least, we don't have to get into super major details, but I think it's going to be hard to discuss further without a higher level vision, I guess, about what we want to see changed on the street.
Yeah, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Thank you, Councilman.
my perspective, the most important thing to me that I want to see on 9 Mile is more greenery, more trees. I'd love to see a lot more trees along 9 Mile. I think that its natural beauty is better than anything else. And then just more accessible. A lot of our sidewalks, easements and stuff like that, just making them, smoother and easier for, people with mobility issues. But that's my most important, is just those two items.
Councilman.
Well,
I'm gonna be.
I'm sorry, no,
No,
go ahead.
No, after you.
No, you're younger than I am, go ahead.
That's just what you think. I'm going to be, and this is my word of the day, I'm going to be very paciloquent, brief in my speech. I'm going to echo Councilwoman Lucido's ideas. I like the ideas, and that is all that I want to discuss about it today.
Okay. Councilman Crowley.
Well, my learned friend to my right asked me what I want to see on 9 Mile Road. Well, we took an hour going through the 9 Mile corridor plan, and I already said it's a beautiful plan, so can I just say that I support what's on here, and I also said it's going to be a beautiful plan. Not saying it's going to be easy, yeah, but Councilman DeMonico, I think this is the plan that we have to take a look at. Is it going to be easy to get done? No, probably not. But actually, other than ripping up 9 Mile Road, I think you and I probably are on the same page, believe it or not. And that's not bad. That's not bad to be agreeable with 99% of the plan. So to answer your question, I'll just hold this up and say, this is my plan.
I think.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, no,
You're not satisfied with that? I don't know what you want me to say, other you asked me what I want to see on 9 Mile Road, and I'm holding up the plan that I support. I don't know what more you want me to say.
Well, first, I just got this tonight. I don't know, you just got this tonight too, right? I mean, I know we went through it like slightly overall, but I guess what would your answer been before, like today, just in general? Like
I don't know what my comment would have been before today. I don't know what you're trying to pressure me into saying or not saying, Councilman Accardo.
I'm not like trying.
Yeah,
to,
you are.
like,
Yes, you are. You really are. And I don't know,
Okay.
you can keep speaking if you want to. I support the plan, and I would hope that the rest of the council people would support the plan.
Okay. Now, Councilman DeMonico, did you want to say something? I think Councilman Crowley's time.
Yeah. Did you want to go, or
Yeah, I
I can
thought
go
you was gonna
first,
say
or do you
something.
want to go first?
I was just gonna say, what I want to see in the road plan is actually a new road. The road looks horrible. I hate driving on 9 Mile and everyone, and I got a guest in East Point, and they looking at me like, "Aren't you the mayor? What's really going on?" So I feel like the governor fixed the darn road. So I would like to see. I can't wait till that gets fixed. And then once we get that, then I can see that I would love to see more businesses. But again, a lot of businesses doesn't have parking. So I don't want to reiterate some things that we already said. It's pretty much the parking I would want to see. Because once we get that fixed, I can see more businesses coming on 9 Mile. And I can see a lot of businesses collaborating. But right now, it's a barrier right now. So that's the biggest thing is fixing the road and then fixing the parking. So Councilman DeMonico.
All right, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I guess so. first of all, I was trying to think back to like the master plan. Of course, you know, a pandemic hit shortly after we adopted that, so it's been a few years now, and we haven't had a chance to get too far on it. But, you know, we kind of talked about, well, you know, Planning Commission has, and then City Council has, about making from like Gratiot to Kelly more of a local business district. And then when we've started talking about 9 Mile, you know, I've, you know, driven up and down and walked up and down a little bit 9 Mile, just like trying to get initial feelings. Obviously, I mean, I've lived here like my whole life, but I haven't probably thought about the details of 9 Mile till we're really talking about it. And I just think it's a ton of concrete, and frankly, I didn't feel like, you know, I was very safe walking, you know, like 2 feet off of 9 Mile. Most of it, you're like 2 feet from the street. There's no green spaces. Councilwoman Lucido was mentioning, and I think there was a nice graphic in here I'll have to look at that Ms. Haw put in. But I think definitely green space and trees makes a place feel a lot better. And I think all these different things bring then business that wants to come, you know, I don't think, you know, business wants to be just surrounded by all concrete. They want to have a nice feeling for their business regardless of if it's a restaurant or an auto mechanic. You know, I don't think, you know, people want to like, you know, enjoy where they're doing business or live and stuff like that. You know, hopefully we're improving the street lights. We've talked about that a bit. And then there's a ton of wires. I know I've brought that up before. It'd be nice if we get rid of as many of those as possible. I know it's going to be tough to do, to just make it look nicer. Because when you know, drive up and down it, there's a lot of wires, and it just makes it not look, you know, it's not as important as maybe being safe, but, you know, those are some of the things. You know, I could probably keep talking about probably some of the biggest things, and especially what Mr. Palazzo said about the access management. There's driveway after driveway after driveway after driveway, and that's not safe or really easy, frankly, to even navigate. So that'd be some of my biggest priorities.
Anyone on the planning commission have any ideas you want to add, or you all want to move forward to the 2022 goals, because it sounded like some goals.
Yeah, no, I think
As well.
one conversation feeds nicely into another. The only other thing I'd ask is that on page 53 of the plan, one of the things I would strongly encourage the council to do is look at this list of uses that's here, and tell us in particular if there are things that you would strongly oppose as a business along 9 Mile Road. And I call a couple to your attention, just, and I don't mean to draw you out, particularly Councilmember Baker, but since you are a close resident of 9 Mile, we're certainly very interested in your perspective. But, you know, obviously, bars, just as an example, yeah, as a social district in an area that can be well shielded from residences, yeah, generally people don't mind having bars on busy thoroughfares. However, if you are the house that is right behind the bar, you might have a very different perspective on that particular use. So if there are certain areas along 9 Mile where you think those types of uses might be better restricted, that information would be very good for us to know. So I would strongly encourage you to look at this list and find any particular uses that you think might be cause nuisances to the surrounding neighbors, and what sort of things might we consider to help protect those neighbors and their property from the uses and the, what some might call the secondary deleterious impacts of these uses. So we would appreciate those comments from you.
You know what also would be pretty cool is, I think, right on 9 Mile and near my house where the Fresh Choice Market is, that one little area on Petersburg and a 9 Mile area. They don't have a lot of parking on 9 Mile, but they park in the alley closer to their buildings. If we can do some type of artwork in these alleys to spruce it up, I think that would be pretty nice. You know, not trying to be like Detroit, but I'm born and raised there, and they have some really good ideas. And a lot of other cities that do that, which we run artwork right there. I think, you know, updating our alleys and make it more, you know, space so that if they do have a business there, they can put seating and things like that to, you know, and people just feel good walking that way. Our alleys are pretty safe, as I've seen, because I stay right over there. But just, you know, enlightening the city, more creativity, right there. It's not on 8 Mile, but, I mean, on 9 Mile, but it's right behind it, so, you know,
Yeah.
certain things like that would be pretty nice.
Yeah, those are all great thoughts. We appreciate all those thoughts. So
Yeah.
anything you want to communicate to us, we strongly encourage you to do so. One of the other things to consider, you know, and Ms. Hall talked about it a little bit in the plan, and we would certainly, again, appreciate the feedback, is the question of massing and scale. These are, you know, funny planner terms that we throw around a lot of times, but really what it means is how tall is a building and how big does a building look? And a lot of times, when planners get into conversations with the community, it's very difficult without an actual picture for somebody to really understand, you know, dimensional standards. Well, it'll be, you know, 35, 36 feet high, it'll be blah, blah, blah. A lot of people don't relate to that very well sometimes. So they need to see an actual image of what the building might look like before they have a strong opinion about it one way or another. So just as an example, you know, for instance, I live on this side, so I can see the residential towers for the Aaron and Barry Manors, like from my backyard, right? You know, for some people, that may be problematic. You know, I personally don't mind, but for other residences who live close to 9 Mile, that might be an issue for current residences. So if the plan is to allow for higher buildings like that, is that something that would be better restricted to certain areas along 9 Mile than others? Just something to consider. And again, you know, your feedback is strongly encouraged. So, Madam Mayor, if you'd like to move on, we can
Yes,
do that.
sir. What, is that okay with everyone? Yep. Okay.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you. So we're gonna go, and thank you, Mr. Palazzolo, as well. We're gonna go right into the 2022 goals. And I think we touched on them a little bit already, right? Don't y'all agree with some of that we touched on? We introduced it with some of the comments we made. So I wanna start with, do Planning Commission wanna open up? Did you have any thoughts? 'Cause I know you're the Planning Commission, your recommendation, but you all still are residents here. And so what are some of your goals? Because I know we always start with us, but what you got, your goals? Because I know you work on this all the time, a little bit more than us, and study a lot of stuff. So what some of the things that you've been researching and saw of our city compared to other cities that you would like to see in, you know, in this year and the upcoming year?
Yeah, I mean, again, I can take the lead on this and ask Ms. Ulinski her thoughts on other things that we can tackle in 2022. Yeah.
Go ahead, take the lead.
Yeah, no, I know, honestly, and I do mean it in jest. If you want to sit back and wait for a second and think about it, of course. I think one of the other corridors that we've talked a lot about at Planning Commission is Kelly Road, and starting to talk about some alternate, maybe plans or concepts for how Kelly Road can be revitalized. I know it's a very strong topic for a number of people, including some members of council. And it is something else that we probably do need to seriously consider in 2022. And with the council's support and blessing, we would be more than happy to do that. I don't know, Mr. Broll, is there anything else you can think of that you would like to?
Well, what I would say is,
list of topics?
yeah, what I would say is we've actually talked about this issue. I don't have the date on this document. We've talked about it, and actually, I've kept a copy of the order and the sequence of what you guys wanted us to achieve. So instead of going through all 7 or 8 bullet points, I could just share it out to our team at some point. But number 1 is 9 Mile Road corridor. And then number 1B was also complete streets policy and support regional efforts to invest in non-motorized transportation, which I've heard a lot of that. We want more access, better walking, and that's aligns very much with 9 Mile Road, so.
So those are at least a couple options for everyone to consider that we tackle in 2022, but of course we can modify our agendas as needed. I know we have a couple agenda items at least upcoming in, what would now be March, because we didn't get to it in February due to the snowstorm, related to zoning ordinance changes for group homes, and we did fences, which should be coming before. Did that come before the council? Council you already got the fence, the
Yes,
privacy
sir.
fence? Okay.
Well, I think we've actually talked about mixed-use zoning, and that, again, aligns with 9 Mile Road as well.
Sure.
So I think that discussion's
Yeah.
perfect for this, and
Yeah.
very tangent to that.
Yeah, no, yeah, and I agree with you. I think obviously the discussion of mixed uses can get a little muddled, and it can be difficult for people to conceptualize. The specific focus on 9 Mile Road, I think, helps us provide a context through which we can evaluate potential mixed uses and mixed-use zoning down the road.
Didn't
So-
we also talk about maximum story height? I thought we were
We
only
did,
going
yeah.
2-story, or was it 3?
You know, you're right about that. We did talk about potential maximum story requirements or allowances.
Right.
Particularly because in our B2 district, what is now our downtown district, we would allow up to 6 stories of residential, if it was strictly residential on 4 through 6, so. But it is a conversation we can carry over into 9 Mile Road, and that's also why I bring it up to you. As council members, I think you would get a lot of feedback on this. Obviously, we're residents too, but we probably don't get the types of communications that you all get when a future development is planned or word of a future development is out there in the community ether. So we would appreciate that feedback loop too.
Thank you. Council?
I have
Yeah.
a comment, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am.
No, that's okay. So I agree with Mr. Broll and Chairman Palazzolo on the things. And here's a simple one that, as a resident only, I'm all about curb appeal. When I drive into this city coming from work or somewhere else, it's dirty. 8 Mile is horrendous. I know, Cardi, you do the volunteer, with the cleanups on Earth Day. I don't know if there's a proposal, maybe we can do it more, or if the city can pay more attention to it, but it is awful. And like I said, I'm about curb appeal. I'm not gonna want to look at a city or a place that can't even keep itself clean. That's just my take, and, like I said, if we could do more, if it's volunteer weekends, once a month or every other month, or a quarter, whatever, just to keep it spruced up, which to me is something simple to make us shine. Just a little shiny. That's all.
I agree. Thank you, Councilwoman.
So, I guess my one goal for 2022 is, and I know you guys have already kind of talked about this a little bit too, because you brought up Kelly Road, which made me think about it. It's just, we redid our master plan and bringing up some of our zoning ordinances to kind of fall in line with what our future land use ideas were. So to make it, if there is new development that comes in, it makes it easier for them to develop it with what our vision was when we did the master plan. Because right now, like you mentioned Kelly Road, I think we in the master plan envisioned it as mixed use, and it's not mixed use right now. So they would have to go in front of ZBA to get that approval if they wanted to do mixed use, even though it's in our vision to do so. So if we could update those things, that's one thing. And maybe developing some sort of social district in the city. That's the only, I'd say that'd be my number 2 thing besides 9 Mile Road, which we're presently working on for 2022.
Any other council member?
I mean, I think we covered a lot of things. I mean, we really touched on 9 Mile. And I'm just gonna echo the same thing about Kelly Road. I know that's a good place to develop. It's very walkable. So good businesses there, I think, are ideal. So whatever that looks like as far as getting Kelly Road up to wherever we visualize it, I think is really one of my goals there. So that's it.
I think for 2022, yes, I agree with what Ms. Ulinski said about 8 Mile, and I know this is not part of the record, but that's probably one reason I didn't want the medical marijuana here in the city of East Point, and I definitely didn't want it located on 8 Mile, because I didn't want a certain look and a certain image. So we already have the image of what you just stated, and I see that too. And I've got calls from people that don't even live in the city of East Point and telling me as the mayor, why does your city look like this? And getting an attitude with me because they go to the beauty supply store and it's trash everywhere, not knowing. I have talked to those people that stay near 8 Mile, and they said they pick up the trash. but people keep dropping trash. And they even put their own garbage, bins in front of these businesses to help with that. And the garbage bins fill up and people just throwing trash down. So I understand what you're saying, but it's a lot of businesses, I go to door, and they get complaints, and those complaints don't only go to them, I'm getting them. And they're blaming me for it and saying you need to get on these businesses, but these businesses are really good business owners. It's the people that come or, do certain things and put trash, and I think we do need to do more about it. I think we talked to GFL about using their staff not too long ago when we were talking about their contract. They were actually supposed to team up with us and do some of that cleaning. I don't know what happened with that. Maybe we need to revisit that conversation. But back to 9 Mile, I really like the idea of getting 9 Mile together. And the thing about it is, we have businesses on there, but what we really need, and it's probably not something that we can build, we need a business association here in the city of East Point, so we can stay connected. We don't have that. So I'm taking this idea from Detroit again. If you go down to the 8 Mile Livernois area, it is beautiful over there near 8 Mile and Livernois, and all those businesses are phenomenal. They when they have an event, all the businesses know about the event, and they fix up the sidewalks. It's a sidewalk event. They have jazz events. They close up, the lanes and things like that. And these businesses barely know each other. They barely know the city, because the only time they come here, if it's, I hate to say it, most of the time it's because of a complaint. But we should be, more business friendly and things like that. And I don't think we have done that. So, and then we also, when we talking about Kelly Road, in the past, when I was a kid, when I went to Eastland Mall, I came to East Point. And so Kelly Road and Harper Woods, that is something that we need to also see what their plans are. Because that whole strip from Kelly Road to their Kelly Road, they have more food on their side. We have more like clothing, right? So maybe create some type of district or something like that. I know Grosse Pointe created a district in their area with the Grosse Pointes, and it's phenomenal. So collaborating with different cities will bring more funding in. And I think, having that walkability on Kelly Road where people can shop and eat and walk, that'll be fun, because we are kind of limited. I wish the parking on 9 Mile, on Kelly was on 9 Mile and switch it around, right? But we can't, because we don't have a lot of food places on 9 Mile. But sometimes you have to collaborate with a adjoining city and see what they're doing. And I think we had some conversations about the Eastland Mall being, shut down soon. So we need to find out how that's going to affect us as well as a community on 8 Mile, And so also on it was something else I wanted to talk about since we're talking about goals. And what reminded me is the solar, using solar, and using new things like that. And I would also like more of capability for the residents to have Wi-Fi. I think a lot of communities are doing that when they're making it more accessible. We're going into a future of more, people got to understand the internet. And we have, I've been having a problem with the internet over there by my house, oh my God, for some weeks now. But I'm just saying that to say, in order for us to get ready for the future, we need to start doing things in place for those things, solar and for our community, our businesses. I think that was part of a CDBG idea that the economic developer and city manager brought to the table. And so starting those things and probably putting those in areas where, it could be more efficient for our environment. So moving to the future, we have to think about our environment, solar, and things like that. And let's start on 9 Mile. So I think that was some of the goals for 2022. And I think we started on some of those ideas already. And so I don't know about the social district. I think we had a little bit of pushback on that because we got senior homes and homes right there. And then I don't think we have enough restaurants or, restaurants for people to eat outside, but we could use food trucks or something like that. But that's just something that, we gotta pretty much ask the residents first and get their data and see who wants that, and then bring it back to the table. Because I don't know if I wanna live across the street and people are having a party. I need my rest. I got twin daughters, so look, I gotta help with homework, so I don't have the energy. But I said also that to say, we wanna actually make sure that the people who are surrounded by those things, who are affected, like you brought up earlier, are okay with that. Because I think we had some pushback from the social district. Not all of it, you know, it's probably like a couple people. It's a lot of people that live on that street. But it's a lot of seniors that live over there on 9 Mile Road. I'm sorry, I'm getting a picture on Kelly Road. So we want to be, and then we have, if you look at 8 Mile, it was by the old recreation department that we had, recreation center. It's that big space right there. Big piece of land. It used to be, I don't know what it used to be, because it's not been nothing for a long time. But it was a Kmart, a grocery store, or something. Evergreen. See, I'm not born and raised here, so they know more than I would. But I'm like, why can't we buy up that land and do something? Like, one thing I can say about other cities, and including Detroit, is they use their land and they say, what can we do with it? They done made a skating rink. Oh my God, a movie theater. It's like, that's phenomenal, you know. I wish they would have put it in a more productive place where, I mean, people are downtown and they want to go downtown, but I think they need to push some of that back to the more of the community and the neighborhoods. And that's where we have a lot of potential, because we have more residential, but we don't have anything to do here. That's the problem. We don't have anything to do here in the city of East Point. We don't. And people are looking for things to do. And so, again, we can't be like Ferndale and Detroit and all these other places, but we can take their ideas and say, what can we do with our city? You know, what can we do with our things? And that piece of land is that is phenomenal piece of land. That person, whoever that is holding that land, I don't know if we looked into that, how much they want. That's a great piece of land on 8 Mile. And also that piece of land over there on 8 Mile and Gratiot. And that area right there, we have to clean that up so many times. I think I went with Mr. DeMonico, Mr. Palucci, and cleaned that up when my daughters went out there, and we all cleaned that up one time. And then I think it was back messy the next day, probably. It's horrible. And so just doing something more with 8 Mile, those major streets, 8 Mile, 9 Mile, and Kelly. And I think once we collaborate, and we can't do it by ourselves, that's another thing. Since we are a smaller city, we need to collaborate with other cities, see what they're doing, so we can get more money and more revenue. And I believe that we just did a project on 8 Mile. Our team over there did a phenomenal job, worked with Harper Woods to team up to get a $20,000 grant to do something on 8 Mile Road. And so I believe we could do anything, but I believe that we were stronger together than divided. And so I said that to say we have a stronger chance in winning that and getting money, because we collaborated with a city that's neighboring city to us that is so much similar to us. We have a lot more residents, but our city is similar. Everybody loves Harper Woods. How their houses are made is similar. So how can we collaborate? And so we need to find out if we can collaborate with St. Clair Shores or Warren and seeing what they're doing, because whatever we share with another community, we need to see what they are doing and see how we can, collaborate with them so we can get more money. Because we just looked at these different plans and it showed us we don't have a lot of money. And you know what? When you don't have a lot of money, you get very strategic, don't you? And we found that out when the last city manager used SMORSA, when we couldn't keep our fire and our police. They collaborate with cities that are not even near the city of East Point, collaborated, and we were able to keep our police and fire. So we need to start collaborating with other cities, seeing what they're doing, and grabbing hold to this money so we can do what a lot of people aren't able to do with a little bit of money. So you guys turn down there.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Real quick, two things. Certainly, 9 Mile Road, that's going to be an exciting beginning of what it's going to look like at 2 or 3 years when we get the whole project done. And then I agree, Kelly Road, I'm not saying it's a forgotten child, but I can't tell you tonight all the things that would be nice to be done, except maybe, and then I'll shut up. Maybe the lighting. You drive by there, and the lighting is, I think, it probably could be improved. There's a lot of other things that we could do, but that's the two things that I would start with as far as a goal setting is concerned. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Sure. So, yeah, one quick note, I guess, on beautification. I don't know why everyone just doesn't do what I do and just throw stuff in the back seat and then throw it out when you get home. I wish everybody could just follow those simple steps. But yes, I mean, I think the last one we had like 20 or 25 people out and we had 50 bags of garbage, and that was, frankly, a block or two, 8 Mile, basically. So, yeah, hopefully everybody will do it again in April or early May or something. A couple hundred people, there will be plenty of work to do. So, but that is side note. I think if I had to pick one item, I think zoning, to me, I just foresee as something that we need to look at immediately, because I think there's going to be some long conversations and probably just a lot of, well, probably as Mr. Palazzolo said, a lot of just discussion on how it works and what we're even proposing in here to spur development throughout the city. Of course, we're talking a lot about 9 Mile and such, but I think it takes many meetings because it's a first and second reading at city council, and stuff. So, and planning commission meetings. So it takes a long time now, or it takes a long time to do it too. So I'm hoping we can kickstart a lot of that, and I think then the rest of this can fall in line with the timeline that Ms. Haw set out. So I guess really zoning code amendments, I think, would be the most important, because then those last forever too, right? We're talking about grandfathering in, if people start to buy up properties we were hoping to change the zoning on. I know people were like the storage center recently, I don't think there was really a better use next to the military museum, but a few people came out and were against just a storage facility being there, but it's zoned for a storage facility like that to be there. So we should have changed it ahead of time, if we were interested in changing that. So hopefully we can change the rest of the city zoning that we're looking at. But frankly, I think I need to hear a lot more about it too, because I think it is a lot, it's a lot of details and that sort of thing. So I guess in the end, zoning is my number one goal, and we've talked about plenty of other things, so I'm not gonna go through other items, and I think that's all I've got for the 2022 goals.
Councilmember DeMonico, if I can ask a clarifying question. When you say zoning, are you speaking specifically in the context of 9 Mile, or are you talking generally citywide? So I think that's a little bit of a different conversation, but, so I want to be clear that we're talking 9 Mile zoning, or 9 Mile and Kelly zoning.
Well, I think all of the above, but I guess 9 Mile would be very important for sure, since we're, changing, we're talking about mixed use. We don't really, I think, basically allow that except for the downtown district, right? Yeah. And so looking at that, across 9 Mile or, like I said, I probably need to learn more details, but I know like our future, the future land use map and the master plan go at that, or even just the storage center we were just talking about. One of the houses is zoned parking, so just some, things like that aren't probably gonna really affect the use of the land, but we should clean some of that up too. But obviously some is more important than others.
I agree. I'm glad you brought that up. I would like you to look at the rezoning of the whole city, because like I talked about that 8 Mile space on 8 Mile, that empty space that used to be, maybe if you change that zoning, we might get somebody that invests in that space. I don't know what the zoning is right there. It might be limited to what can be done. So if we look at certain areas that's sitting there, vacant land, and say, maybe if we open it up to a little bit more, and rezone that, maybe we can find people interested in, investing in the city for certain spaces that aren't being used. Anyone else? I don't know if our team back there has any goals they want to bring up that you all been working on, or can elaborate with some of the things that we already said that you probably already started.
We've been taking notes and figured we'd all circle back at the goal setting session.
Okay.
Next Tuesday.
Okay, that sounds good. So we're gonna go, it sounds like we're done with that. We can go right ahead into subcommittees. I don't know why this was put on here. Someone wanted to do add another committee on here. Councilman DeMonico, I don't know who.
Well, no, I think Mr. Pelzo, right, Planning Commission talked about subcommittees previously.
We did talk about this, yes, at a previous planning commission meeting. However, in true pass the buck fashion, I actually think Ms. Holman brought it up first. As part of a conversation along best practices with MEDC, am I incorrect in that comment?
No, you are absolutely
Okay.
correct. That is the goal, to have better communication between the, especially the development-related
Right.
boards and commissions.
Herbie, can you hear her? Can you hear Ms. Holman? Can you hear Ms. Holman?
Can you hear Ms. Holman?
Never mind. Okay.
Okay.
I was just gonna ask her to go to the mic, that's why, because I could barely hear her,
Uh-huh.
so I couldn't hear her that well. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Yes, it is one of the RRC, part of their best practices, and particularly right now because it is so important with the zoning ordinance needing to be changed to match the master plan.
Yeah.
And so we had brought up some ideas and again, trying to avoid any issues with quorum, but one or two members of different commissions to be involved in different projects. The social district, the 9 Mile, just, again, it would help to have commission or council or board members that would, help push this through and really be the voice of the residents.
Right. So I think, obviously, we have a lot of discussion in our respective formal sessions, but I think the ultimate point is to have almost an intermediate step between these formal sessions where representatives of both council and the planning commission and any other party that is really involved, particularly in 9 Mile or Kelly or some other target priority, can discuss ideas before we get into these formal sessions and maybe help guide the conversation in ways that makes these formal sessions a little more efficient. And I think that's the hope, in that we can have, for each of the priority task items, at least between council and commission, a couple of representatives who can do, to the point of Ms. Holman, work within the stipulations of open meetings and so on and so forth. We can have some of these more detailed, in-depth conversations about some particular recommendations and get some immediate feedback, and we can guide the direction and the discussion in more informal session as we need to. So I think that's the goal and the hope.
And I think there's also so many factors, because when different ideas come up, obviously things have to go to the planner, things may have to go to the engineer, and then of course to Mr. Albright, but the idea would be to keep things moving more
Right.
quickly, more efficiently, and not having to wait
Right.
weeks until the next time there was a meeting and
Right.
you had to get some
And
information.
hopefully, exactly, and hopefully, once we get to formal session, that the representatives from each, the council and the commission, can have had their conversations with other respective members of the team to let them know what's coming informal, so that the conversations aren't these large presentation dumps on all of us, and we're sitting here trying to absorb a lot of information really quickly. And the goal, I think, is to allow for a little bit more incrementality in the assumption of information and ideas, so.
So you're telling us you're gonna be part of that subcommittee? Is that what you're saying right now?
I am happy to serve in whatever capacity the fellow commissioners deem appropriate. So, they've already designated me as chairperson for the year, so I'm here to do that, and if they so decide that I need to do that, then I will do that, so. Right? Right, yes. I asked Madam Secretary everything, just to make sure I'm saying it right, so yeah, that's correct.
Mayor Pro Tem.
So I'm assuming that you have some ideas of subcommittees already, probably.
Well, I think I think actually 3 would be, of course, 9 Mile, specifically, Kelly Road specifically, and/or trying to incorporate social district into the Kelly Road area. Again, it's more walkable. But I think those are some of the biggest that we have right now. I think some of the other pieces will fall into place. I know that vacant buildings are an issue. I know that there are property owners sitting on property right now, such as that vacant lot, such as the corner of 8 and Gratiot. Hopefully moving the medical marijuana forward will open up some of those buildings. But again, just to, again, have people that would, are willing to go out and walk a couple blocks together and see what's going on.
So I guess my idea would be if Ms. Holman could write down what subcommittees, who she, if there's people from city council, the planning commission, if there's anyone else that you think would be important to be on there, maybe bring the list to the next planning commission meeting and the next council meeting. We can, if we approve it at that time, if we want to move forward with, doing the subcommittees, we can decide, and then the planning commission can decide and pick someone for each subcommittee at that time too, so.
Sounds good. Yes, I know the DDA would also like to be involved in some of the zoning changes that need to, or amendments that need to be
Right.
made in this area.
So yeah, whoever you think, if there's someone from the DDA, then just put it on the list that you think there should be someone from the DDA on there. Or if it's, we're talking about cleaning up 8 Mile,
right.
beautification, something like that, so.
Well, we have the planning commission here, and we all have council. Do anybody, because I know you said let her pick, but let people be open to doing what they're open to do. So would anybody be interested in being on that subcommittee on council?
And Madam Mayor, to be specific,
Yeah.
we're talking about a 9 Mile subcommittee. Is that specifically what we're talking about in this case?
I think we're
Just as a
talking-
starter?
I was talking about all the sub.
Yeah, we was talking about all
So,
of, yeah.
that's what I was saying.
I thought we was talking about all of it, one committee for
Conceptually.
all.
Okay.
No, I was saying like give her, well, no, would there be multiple committees?
Y'all
We'd
want
all-
multiple?
Yeah, so that's why I was giving Ms. Holman time to come up with the multiple committees and then propose them to us.
Okay.
I don't know if she has them all prepared tonight or not, that she has in her head. I know she's sticking ideas here, so.
Well, and it's also an opportune time, particularly for Kelly Road with the Eastland Mall about to be demolished and the new development going in there. I know the planning commission members received some information in their packets. But as a quick update, there's going to be 3 large light industrial and shipping buildings. They've got a really nice design. My understanding is North Point developers have been very accommodating with Harper Woods and the different requests from the residents. Traffic flow is going to be very carefully contained. The actual plan is that there's one building along 8 Mile Vernier. There will be retention ponds and lots of greenery. And then there's a larger building in the back and then another one along the side. And the trucks are going to enter at the back. They're going to go to the backs of the buildings. In fact, the large building, they'll enter at the back and then leave, which actually would be facing the Home Depot and be able to go out to the access road. So they really are doing a lot. They're going to be creating a lot of jobs. I think that Kelly Road will get a lot of interest. Lunches and dinners, things like that. So I think it's an opportune time to really start looking at what would be attractive.
All right. But on that note, would anybody like to be on any of those boards for, to help with making decisions or anything like that? For 9 Mile or DDA, right?
I mean, I'm fine with, serving on one of the boards. I mean, I'm willing to donate some of my time to try to move the city forward for sure. But, I mean, I don't know which one yet. I mean, I'd like to see them first, maybe have that discussion we have them in front of us.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah, it sounds like it would be a fun project, so, yeah, I could make time for that.
Sounds good. Planning Commission, you would, on any of those projects, would anybody be open to it?
Yeah, I would. I just have a question
Yes, sir.
for Mr. Albright. Is there any open meetings concerns depending on the number of participants?
No. Generally, I would recommend that all provisions of the Open Meetings Act be followed on conducting one of those types of meetings. The council could create one of those committees at a future city council meeting by way of motion, or if the council wanted to be more specific, by way of an actual ordinance. But yeah, I would recommend that adherence to all Open Meeting Act regulations be followed. So those meetings would be open to the public. I would assume that they would be conducted here in the council chambers. Notice of the meetings would be posted, and members of the public would have an opportunity to attend the meetings here in the council chambers.
Sounds good.
I would assume a lot of the meetings are going to take place somewhere on 9 Mile Road. I mean, literally a walkthrough, or Kelly, or wherever, but I understand your point. Yeah, thank you.
I don't know if you all agree with this or not, but since it's so many different, you know, we got 9 Mile, we got Kelly, we got 8 Mile. Do you all want to focus on for 2022 one major area so we don't be all over the place? You set a goal for one area, make a subcommittee for that, focus on that one area to have 3 different ideas and have everybody all over the place. We need to focus on one area, do a subcommittee for that area, make plans, and execute. It's hard to execute when everybody's all over the place. That's just one idea, and just find out what is our main priority? Is it 9 Mile? Is it 8 Mile? Is it Kelly? What's the main priority? And then say, okay, let's focus on this in 2022, 2023. This is 2024. So have all these subcommittees and stuff like that, I think we need to have a goal. The goal is to find one idea and try to make that idea come to life. But I mean, it's just, you know, that's just my thoughts to have. I mean, we want to have goals, but to really execute one goal and see one place phenomenally done, I think we can get it done more if we focus on one thing and not be all over the place. That's all I was thinking.
I think that, I guess it would be dependent upon how many people they have, if they do one subcommittee or if they have multiple. And then each respective subcommittee could focus on their respective areas. But I guess it depends, you know, going forward when they decide how they want to do it. It's just my viewpoint, but then maybe they can, you know, like if it's one subcommittee that's, you know, going to focus on all 3 areas, then I think that works. If they have multiple, you know, they may be able to tackle, you know, all the areas respectively.
Yeah, I said that to say, we have a strategic plan right here, and we haven't even finalized this yet. We're still talking about 9 Mile, and we talked about the mixed use. What was that, 2 or 3 years ago? I think we talked about that. Now we're talking about 8 Mile, now we're talking about Kelly, now we're talking about the DDA. I feel like we're everywhere, and we're not in a state of completion. We're still talking about doing things in 9 Mile that we talked about 3 years ago because we don't have our goals lined up. We set these meetings, and I don't see too many things executed. So that's all I was saying. Yes, ma'am.
So yeah, I kind of agree with Mr. Baker. I think the idea is, look, there's 5 of us. So let's say there's 5 subcommittees, we all sat on one, is so we can kind of get these things moving forward. You know what I'm saying? Like work on getting these ideas, the more details, so we can present them to the groups so they can actually start getting developed and implemented. I mean, I can think of 3 subcommittees alone just from the strategic plan, like that we could develop. We're talking about zoning requirements. We're talking about, you know, beautifying 9 Mile with redevelopment. I could easily come up with at least 3 off, you know, just from this right here, if we just want to get this done this year. So, I mean, I think we could definitely move forward with more than one.
Mayor, could I ask Mr. Albright a quick question?
Yes, sir.
For Open Meetings Act, and I guess so that we could be more informal, and I mean, with the spirit of the Open Meetings Act, if we had 2 or less council members and 3 or less planning commission members, you could discuss to your heart's content and meet, you know, on 9 Mile and do a walkthrough or something like that, and we wouldn't have to worry about violating the Open Meetings Act, correct?
Of course, yeah. This certainly, just like the council could take a field trip to go through certain areas of the city, the subcommittee could do the same thing.
Okay. All right.
Sounds good. Any more? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just real quick, Councilman DeMonico, yeah, like Parks Commission meets at the parks all the time. So, I mean, as long as I think we posted that we were meeting there. You know, we were doing a tour of 9 Mile, meet at this place at this time, and the meeting starts, we're touring 9 Mile.
Well, and I mean, I'm even saying we wouldn't even have to worry about any posting or anything, I guess, right? If like there's less than a majority on either, then, I mean, if we want to post, sure, but like if they just want to get together real quick, you know, if we're talking about trying to get something done real quick between meetings or things like that. But I mean, of course, we're happy to post about it if anyone else wants to join too. Yeah, okay.
Now with everybody got good ideas. Now with a goal setting, I know, everybody knows what goal setting is. It's saying what's priority, what's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what's your top 5? I think we did that. I think we'll do that in a goal setting. I think planning commission will be here when we do our goal setting session, so do our top 5 for each area maybe, and work on those things. So, I think we did that, 3 years ago when we did goal setting? So when we did do these, events, and do these goal settings, we'll have our top 5 from everybody that's gonna be a part of that, and work, and how are we gonna execute those top 5? Because we can have all type of goals and things like that, and they're not realistic. So we want realistic goals at our goal setting. I think everybody, I don't know, who all will be at the goal setting? I know, of course, us, but someone from planning commission, or I would believe everybody from each commission will probably want to be there. Anybody can come, but
We can send an invite to all the boards and commissions. We've already posted notice for it.
okay. Yeah, so when we have a goal setting, we want to make sure that we're actually having what's priority and what's, not priority. And so we don't want to be all over the place. Things that we can get done this year probably, maybe, and then things that we can work on next year. Okay, that sounds good. I don't know if you guys want to continue or you want to stay here, because I'm hungry. I'm hungry, I haven't eaten nothing.
For the sake of time, I think we covered it. I think we should continue to move on.
Okay.
It's time for
Or you're gonna be, you're gonna be minus one member. I'm just real
I'm
soon.
here by myself, right? Okay, going to commissioner comments from the planning commission, please.
Commissioner Lalonde, do you have any comments?
Nope, I have no comments.
Commissioner Broll?
Well, I would just say that, regarding the 9-mile corridor, it feels very much like an extension of what we have in the master plan, right? The master plan talks about it being a neighborhood, walkable, service-orientated businesses across that 9-mile corridor. We as a planning commission have had plans in front of us that we frankly have voted no on because they didn't align with that vision. And so this feels like what we're doing is we're just taking that the next step. And so it's an exciting thing. I'm looking forward to it.
Secretary Ewing.
Oh, I just want to say thank you for this collaboration. I thought it was good. I love bouncing ideas off of so many people and getting feedback, and we're prepared to go to work with it. Onward.
And upward. To echo that comment, yeah, I sincerely do appreciate the conversation and any additional feedback you provide going forward. It truly does matter to us. I want to make sure that that's clear. The second thing I want to do really quickly is give a quick shout out and thanks to the East Point DPW workers who fixed and replaced not one, but 2 water main breaks on my street over the weekend and got it done in some brutal temperatures. I sincerely do appreciate them, so thank you for that.
Good news, good compliments. That's awesome. We're gonna start with mayor council reports, and also thank you all. I like this whole collaboration and hearing what you have to say and meeting of the minds. We're gonna start with Councilman Baker.
All right, well, keeping with the positivity, one thing that I did when I was on council before, because we had so much negativity going around in the news, as you all know, and all that, I started doing a word of the day. That's a thing that I do to try to be positive and I like to learn new things, and I like to focus on positive as opposed to negative. So earlier I mentioned my word was pasiloquent. Pasiloquent is just brevity in speech, and that is something that I am very much in favor of. Thank you. Good night.
Councilman Crowley.
Thank you. I think we took a huge step tonight, together, working together, bringing up ideas, and I'm glad I'm on the council because what's the old saying, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel? Well, I can just see the light. We're out there beyond the tunnel, and it's gonna be great, so thank you for all the things. Now let me make a comment. If anybody knows me, sometimes when I discuss things, whether it's with my wife or my pastor or friends, having coffee in the morning, I get excited and I try to bring my point out. So please do not make the mistake leaving here tonight thinking that Cardi was disrespectful to me and I was disrespectful to him. That was not the case. We argued, we had different opinion, and if you raise your voice, so what? That's fine. It's, you know, I'm not going to end up with the meeting and kiss him, but I might give him a hug. But we're still friends. It's okay if you yell. That's how you get your point across. Watch the sessions of the Senate and the House once in a while, and you'll understand that. So I still love my brother on my right-hand side. So thank you again for a great meeting.
Yes, sir. I mean, it just made sense for you to go next, right?
I guess the transition to me makes sense, yeah. All right, yep, yeah, some good debate up here, Councilman Curley and everyone else. And yeah, thanks planning commissioners for taking so much time out of your day, not just tonight, but you know, every month to do the business of the city. Everyone else here, lots of great people. City administration, thanks for all the time you put into. I know you put a ton of time in. And I think just in general, I am just excited to do any of this because I think a lot of people are going to be looking to do things as we get, hopefully, you know, further and further from the pandemic. Obviously, this will be our first, you know, summer where vaccines have been widely available for everyone. They were at like, you know, sort of the beginning of the summer last summer. You know, hopefully we can do more things in person, and I think people will be looking to do that. So hopefully that helps with business investment and things of that nature too in the city. So 9 Mile, this could be a, you know, perfect timing here is, you know, good thing we weren't starting this like, you know, February 2020. But yeah, I think just general, I'm optimistic and looking forward to it. And yeah, thanks again, everybody.
That's it. Thank you, Councilman. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I'd like to thank Ms. Haw for the great presentation tonight. It was really informative. I always appreciate all of your work. And thank you to all city administration for staying late. I'm sure you'd rather be at home than be here with us, but I do appreciate it. And I definitely want to make sure I give a shout out to the Planning Commission. I am so happy that you guys updated our corner fence ordinance. I do really appreciate it. I've had a lot of residents that are very thankful. And in the past, I've had a lot of residents that had a lot of concerns about not being able to put fences on corner lots, privacy fences. So I really do thank you guys for, you know, looking that over and redoing that ordinance. And thank you for coming out tonight. I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed sharing ideas, and hopefully we can make sure we try to do this every single year, because I know sometimes it seems like it's longer than every year. So that's all I have this evening, Mayor.
Thank you. I want to thank council, the planning commission, all the staff for being here, Miss AEW, and I said Miss AEW. Let's switch that around, Minister. Let's switch that around. I thank you, AEW, for coming out here. Miss Hall, I haven't seen you almost 4 years, so it's good to see you. And for coming out and putting this plan together. It takes teamwork, make the dream work. That's what I say. And our team back there, I want to make sure I give a shout out to the team who puts stuff together and deals with the calls and the complaints and still comes to work and say, let's do this all over again. So I also want to give a shout out to my twin daughters in St. Peter's. They won again tonight. They played in Fraser at the Lutheran school there in Fraser. So I think last council meeting they won, and tonight they won again. So they got 3 more games, and I pray that St. Peter's bring it on home. So. And then they'll be going to high school, so y'all pray for me on that part. So then we're working on that, and so I need a whole plan for that. So you got a commission for that, so I don't know. So I'm excited about that. There's a lot of good things coming on in City of East Point. Some of you heard, some of you didn't, and if you didn't, I'm gonna reiterate it. My whole journey here in the city of East Point was a very, not only historical one, but it educated me. Even you sending me that information continues to educate me and help me to learn. I think I'm learning something new every single day as the mayor, and then as a council person. Oh my God, I got all these things. I'm like, what is this? You know, and so I have a book coming out called Mom Was a Mayor, and it teaches not only about what a mayor does, but actually the people that's sitting up here, because I was a council person before I was a mayor, and also what a city manager does. So it's a lot of things that it teaches kids about government, and you know, and kids need to understand. My kids come to they know so much of, about the things that they see me doing that I didn't know till I was in my 30s, which I am right now, I'm not telling you my whole age. But I said that to say, we have a lot of good things coming in East Point, and it starts with the meeting of the minds. So also, that book release has already been released, so I definitely want you all to come out and join me at the library. Even if you don't buy a book, just come out and just engage with the children, and let's talk, and they can learn something about what the Planning Commission does. So a lot of kids don't even know what's the Planning Commission. So, just engaging with the community and things like that is something that I love to do. So I used to be on the library commission and things like that. So doing something and actually having a real book is kind of awesome. So I want you guys to come out March 5th, the East Point Library. I think the last mayor did her other book there. And so, I just love when mayors and elected officials are getting involved in their community. So I guess I'm just going behind the last mayor. So she put it in me, so now I'm putting it out. So hopefully the next mayor do the same thing. So I said that to say, can I get a motion for
So moved.
adjournment?
Support?
Thank you so much. Motion is supported. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Carter.
Yes.
Councilmember Baker.
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido.
Yes.
Mayor Owens.
Yes,
Councilmember DeMonico.
Yes.
I believe Planning Commission has to
Planning
do it.
Commission, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion?
Support? Motion, support, Secretary, please call the roll.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Mr. Lalonde? Yes. Mr. Broll?
Yes.
Chairman Palazzolo?
Yes.
Meeting adjourned. You all have a good one. See you next week.